The Ice Age world is frozen under ice and cold, endless plains covered with snow, wind cutting into exposed skin, and life here is a daily struggle for warmth, food, and survival. And it is in this brutal environment that two different human worlds exist side by side. Two approaches to life, two evolutionary paths, the Neanderthal and the Cro-Magnon, one massive and stocky, built to confront nature head-on, the other taller, more mobile, and more attentive to cooperation and detail. And at first glance, it seems obvious that in such a world, the advantage should belong to the physically stronger one, the one who can endure cold, blows, and scarcity. But history prepares a very different outcome, because it is here, among glaciers and hunting camps, that a confrontation begins, whose result will decide who remains on the planet and who disappears forever, leaving behind only bones, traces in the soil, and a few % of DNA in our blood. And this is not a story about sword fights or tribal wars, but a slow, almost invisible, yet deadly evolutionary duel, where the decisive factor will not be muscle power, but the ability to unite, learn, share knowledge, and adapt faster than the world itself changes. The Neanderthal enters this evolutionary arena as a true heavyweight of the Ice Age. His body is short, wide, and extremely powerful, every muscle optimized for survival in the cold. Short limbs reduce heat loss, a massive chest allows breathing freezing air, and dense bones with powerful shoulders speak of a life filled with physical labor, direct contact with danger, and constant clashes with large prey. His skull is large with heavy brow ridges and strong jaws, and although his brain volume is often equal to or even larger than that of modern humans, it works differently, focused more on immediate decisions, strength, and survival in the moment, rather than long-term planning, symbolism, or abstract thinking, making this type of human perfectly suited for life in small groups where everyone knows their role. Hierarchy is simple, and the key values are endurance and individual bravery. The Cro-Magnon looks completely different, as if designed not for direct confrontation with nature, but for gradually mastering it through intelligence and cooperation. He is taller and leaner. His body consumes less energy with every movement, which in a world of constant hunger becomes a huge advantage. His brain is slightly smaller in volume but more complex in structure, with better developed areas responsible for language, coordination, imagination, and social bonding. And this allows him to live in larger groups, communicate effectively, plan ahead, divide roles during hunts, create more advanced tools, and not just survive, but slowly change the rules of the game in the Ice Age world. Morning in the Ice Age begins cold for both, but this is where the difference between the species becomes visible immediately. The Neanderthal wakes up in a small group where everyone knows each other. They are few. They live together for years and rarely interact with outsiders. He wears simple hides thrown over the body and tied with straps. They provide warmth, but restrict movement and force him to stay close to the fire. His daily life is simple and direct, few possessions, few tools, and a lot of physical effort, while the Cro-Magnon wakes up in a much larger community where every morning is filled with noise, motion, and exchange of information. His clothing consists of multiple tailored pieces sewn with bone needles and sinew, tightly fitted to the body, retaining heat and allowing hours of work in freezing temperatures. Within this group, there is a clear division of roles. Some prepare tools, others tend the fire. Someone plans the hunt, and even daily routine becomes a survival mechanism because knowledge is passed every day from elders to the young, accumulated and preserved beyond the lifespan of a single individual. Hunting for a Neanderthal is a test of strength and courage. He approaches closely, enters dangerous contact with the animal, uses a heavy spear, and relies on endurance and muscle, which is why his body gradually accumulates signs of injuries. While for the Cro-Magnon, hunting is primarily about strategy, distance, and coordination. He uses spear throwers, traps, signals, group movement, and even the animal itself becomes part of the plan, driven, confused, and directed toward places where escape is nearly impossible, resulting in far lower risk for each individual member of the group. Evening fully reveals the contrast between their worlds. Neanderthals return to a tight circle where experience remains locked within a small group and rarely spreads further, while for Cro-Magnons, evening is a time of stories, gestures, sounds, symbols, cave paintings, bone and stone ornaments, a way to fix knowledge, share fear, plans, and experience. And it is at this moment that it becomes clear their true weapon is not muscle or spear, but collective memory and the ability to think together. A Cro-Magnon's day begins even before full dawn, when the fire in the center of the camp is still smoldering, and the large group slowly wakes up around it. And this morning already looks nothing like the survival of individuals, because everything here is built on interaction. Someone checks tools, someone repairs clothing made of dozens of stitched pieces of hide, someone shares where a herd was seen yesterday, and all this information is not lost but accumulated, transmitted through words, gestures, and images. Throughout the day, the Cro-Magnon almost never acts alone. Hunting is prepared in advance, routes are discussed, roles are assigned, and when the group goes after prey, it is no longer chaotic risk, but a clear plan, where some drive the animals, others wait at a distance with spear throwers. Traps are prepared ahead of time, and even failure is not a disaster, because the knowledge of it remains within the tribe. After the hunt, the prey is not simply eaten. It is processed, dried, stored. Bones and sinew become material for new tools. Skins become the basis for even more complex clothing. And by evening, the day does not end in exhaustion, but shifts into a cultural space where stories, rhythms, and cave paintings appear by the fire, capturing not only animals, but the very experience of living. And it is this kind of day, filled with communication, planning, and knowledge exchange, that gradually turns the Cro-Magnon from a resident of the Ice Age world into its master. The climax of this confrontation does not come as a great battle or a bloody war, but slowly and almost invisibly, when two ways of life collide with the reality of a changing Ice Age world. Neanderthals do not disappear in a single winter, and do not lose because of one mistake. Their problem lies elsewhere. They are too few. Their groups are small and scattered. There is almost no exchange of knowledge between them. Tools change extremely slowly. Technologies remain nearly the same for thousands of years. And when the climate becomes harsher and resources more limited, every lost hunter becomes critical because there is no one to replace him. While Cro-Magnons at the same time act as a single network. They are numerous, constantly connected. Ideas spread quickly. New methods of hunting, clothing, and survival are not lost, but become standard. And in such a world, Neanderthals do not lose in combat. They gradually fade away. Some are assimilated. Others simply cannot withstand competition. And the proof of this remains within us, because the DNA of most modern humans outside Africa still carries traces of Neanderthal genes as a reminder that this was not extermination, but the quiet end of one evolutionary path. Even in the evolutionary confrontation, the Cro-Magnons claimed victory. The Neanderthals, though physically strong, enduring, and brave, lived in small groups, did not develop tools or social networks, and gradually became assimilated or disappeared as a species. The Cro-Magnons survived thanks to teamwork, the ability to transmit knowledge, plan hunts, and exchange experience. And it was these skills that made them the direct ancestors of modern humans. And their strategy of collective survival became the foundation of evolutionary success. Even after the story of the confrontation has concluded and the main lessons are understood, The lives of Cro-Magnons and Neanderthals continue to inspire reflection. Which type of human is closer to us today? Are we more inclined toward solitary strength and direct action, like the Neanderthal, or toward teamwork, planning, and knowledge sharing, like the Cro-Magnon? And this imaginative exercise allows us to place ourselves in their shoes, compare our strengths and weaknesses, feel how collective memory, cooperation, and strategy determined survival thousands of years ago. And to allow viewers to make their own choice, the scenario proposes an interactive element. Imagine yourself as a tank loner, relying on strength and endurance, or as a team player innovator, planning ahead, sharing knowledge, and surviving through collective effort. And this simple psychological test reveals how the evolutionary strategies of our ancestors are reflected in us today, while also leaving open space for discussion and personal conclusions, creating a logical ending to the scenario that entertains and educates simultaneously.